But let's talk a little Washington Nationals. They added a couple guys. They added in free agency Zach Littell, a starter, 1 year, $7 million. Miles Michaelis, another starter, 1 year, $2.25. Foster Griffin, a reliever, 1 for 5.5. Drew Smith, Mets pitcher, 1 for 1.75. And they traded for Andre Granillo, a reliever. They got him from St. Louis. We talked about the Harry Ford trade when it happened, and then again with the Mariners. They bring him over from Seattle, a catcher. Great move for him because now he's not stuck behind Cal Raleigh. He has a chance to actually be a catcher and compete for a job. But they lost some considerable pieces. Josh Bell, he's now in Minnesota. Paul DeJong, he's with the Yankees. Derek Law, he's with Arizona. He's a reliever. Jorge Alfaro, the catcher's with Kansas City now. Mason Thompson, a reliever's with Texas. Jose Ferrer, they traded him to Seattle. That was part of that trade with Harry Ford. Mackenzie Gore, they sent him to Texas in a trade. There was a lot. And Jake Benner, he was traded to Boston. He's another starting pitcher. So with Washington losing some veterans, they have a very young core. Can their youthful group jump from promising pieces to actual productive pieces? Again, they have Adams, Cruz, Woods, Garcia Jr., Brady House. So a lot of really good pieces, but what can they do to take that next step?
Well, I think they got a good mix of young talent. Some guys that are already established, James Wood, CJ Abrams, I feel like have cemented themselves as quality MLB players at this point. I thought Lyle and Cruz both had solid 2025 campaigns. I'm excited to see what they could build on that for 2026 and see if they take a leap. And then you got a guy like Brady House who going to be the everyday third baseman who showed some promise, but if he could take a leap, the Nationals are certainly feeling a good spot. And then you got a lot of pieces that you got back in that Mackenzie Gore deal that, you know, again, with your Wood and Abrams kind of leading the way, if you can project Cruz and Lyle to take a leap, if you can get 2 to 4, I don't want to say surprise, but impactful players in this campaign, I do think the Nationals have an ability to be sneaky good and sneaky competitive. The starting rotation isn't great, but they got a decent amount of arms that I think could eat innings throughout a regular season. Again, I don't think 2026 is fully about being a playoff team for the Nationals, but I do believe in 2027 that should be what their goal is to be. And this season, you find out who are going to be the leaders of that charge.
They're to me, they're basically the Cardinals of the NL East, but further along and where they're at in their rebuilding phase. Like right now, they're at the kind of, like you said, the end where like maybe not this year, but next year, maybe trying to sneak in and get a wild card spot.
Yeah, they remind me of the Athletics last year.
Yeah.
Now, the Nationals as a team, how much longer before they're like legitimately World Series viable, do we think? Or do we think that might take too long where we could see them need to start thinking about almost doing a quick rebuild on the fly if the pitching staff isn't there, like we saw with the Orioles, where they had all those great prospects, the pitching didn't match the offense, and now they're kind of in limbo?
Well, we'll talk about the Orioles next week, but I don't think anybody would doubt the Orioles lineup is World Series caliber. Obviously, they invested all their money and prospects into their lineup and nothing into their pitching. I would hope that the Nationals, you know, if they had an Orioles level lineup, would spend money on starting pitching. It's tough to say. Obviously, I don't think the next 2 years, but it's really tough to project where a team's going to end up, especially a team that has this much young talent. Could the Nationals, if everything goes right, be a World Series contender team by 2028? Yeah, man, if some of these young stars really pop and then they spend money in free agency or trades over the trade deadline over the next 2 years and get some real viable starting pitching and maybe a strong closer, absolutely. In terms of a more, hey, with what we got timeline, maybe 2030.